Good morning, church. Today we're going to be looking at Psalm 125, and it's one of the Psalm of Ascents. Those were 15 psalms that they sang as they were going to Jerusalem. They would make this pilgrimage to go to festivals, and it was this way of reminding them of who God is and who they are and where they needed to be heading in their life. So let's look at Psalm 125. I'm going to be reading out of the Message. Those who trust in God are like Zion Mountain. Nothing can move it, a rock-solid mountain you can always depend on. Mountains encircle Jerusalem, and God encircles His people. Always has and always will. The fist of the wicked will never violate what is due the righteous, provoking wrongful violence. Be good to your good people, God, to those whose hearts are right. God will round up the backsliders, corral them with the incorrigibles. Peace over Israel. So as we look at that and break it up, it starts off with this beautiful picture of how rock solid God is. He's like Zion Mountain. Nothing can move it. That's wonderful to think about in times that are tumultuous, is that we don't have to depend on something that changes all the time, but God is rock solid. And then it goes, the mountains encircle Jerusalem, and God enriches His people. Always has and always will. This is using just a picture of Jerusalem that everyone recognized. It's a strong city in the midst of a bunch of hills. That made it an incredibly safe place. It just had this natural defense around it, and they designed it that way so that it would be safe. So this just gives us a picture of how God encircles us and keeps us safe. The next part, the fist of the wicked will never violate what is due the righteous, provoking wrongful violence. If we look at fist first, with fist and the wicked, it was looking at everyone who attacks Israel. That was a regular kind of a thing. They knew it happened. They got attacked a lot. And it was kind of this up and down of whether God was behind them or whether they weren't following God. And it didn't work out well for them. But then you look at, will never violate. It was that it would never get in the way of God's purposes and God's plan. Then, be good to your good people, God, for those whose hearts are right. God will round up the backsliders, corral them with the incorrigibles. Looking at our hearts, God knows our heart. He knows where we are, and that's what He uses in relationship to us. And we need to work on our heart and make sure we keep it in the right place. Then it ends with peace over Israel. And that word peace has a kind of multifaceted meaning. It can not just have peace, but also this relax. Relax in that peace because God is in control. This was the song they sang to remind themselves that God provides security for them. What a wonderful message for us during this time.